When hotel cleaner Catalina Reyes returns a platinum wedding band to a mysterious guest, she never expects it to unlock a love that challenges class, loyalty, and the life she's always known. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the Paradise View Hotel, casting golden light across the marble floors that Catalina Reyes scrubbed on her hands and knees. At 26, she had already spent 8 years cleaning up after the wealthy visitors who barely noticed her existence. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her uniform, though clean, had faded from too many washes. "Room 1507 is next, Catalina," said Marge, the head housekeeper, checking off boxes on her clipboard. "The guest checked out early this morning. Make sure you get it done quickly. We have a new arrival at noon." "Yes, ma'am," Catalina replied, gathering her cleaning supplies and pushing her cart toward the elevator. The penthouse suite of the Paradise View Hotel was larger than Catalina's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the mountains surrounding Santa Fe, New Mexico. The bed was still rumpled, with expensive shirts tossed carelessly on the floor. Catalina worked methodically, changing the sheets, wiping down surfaces and vacuuming the plush carpet. As she moved the heavy couch to vacuum underneath, something caught her eye, a glint of metal in the corner. Catalina reached down and picked up a man's platinum wedding band. It was heavy and expensive looking, with a small inscription inside that she couldn't quite make out. For just a moment, she let herself imagine what it would be like to own something so valuable. Her mother had never had a wedding ring. Her father had left before Catalina was born, and her mother had worked as a hotel cleaner until cancer took her life 3 years ago. Catalina slipped the ring into the pocket of her uniform. She finished cleaning the suite and pushed her cart back into the hallway. At the front desk, she hesitated. The hotel had a lost and found policy, but she knew that expensive items often disappeared before they ever reached their owners. "Excuse me," she said quietly to Marco, the front desk manager. Marco looked up with barely concealed impatience. "Yes? I found this in the penthouse suite," Catalina said, placing the ring on the counter. "The guest might come back looking for it." Marco raised his eyebrows, clearly surprised by her honesty. "I'll log it in the system. What's your name again?" "Catalina Reyes. I'll make a note that you found it." He gave her a rare smile. "Not everyone would turn this in, you know." Catalina shrugged. "It wasn't mine to keep." She returned to her duties, the brief interaction already fading from her mind. That evening, after her shift ended, Catalina headed to the small apartment she shared with her cousin Eleanor. They split the rent, which allowed Catalina to attend online nursing classes at night. "How was work?" Eleanor asked, stirring a pot of beans on the stove. "Same as always," Catalina answered, dropping her bag by the door. "Rich people making messes for poor people to clean." Elena laughed. "You sound like your mother. I wish she could have seen me finish even one semester of nursing school." Catalina sat at their small kitchen table and opened her laptop. "2 more years and I'll never have to clean another toilet again." "Unless you become a nurse in a hospital," Elena teased. "Then you'll just be cleaning up worse messes." "But I'll be helping people, not just picking up after them." 2 days later, Catalina was changing towels in a standard room when Marge found her. "Catalina, you need to go to the front desk. Marco is asking for you." Catalina's stomach tightened with worry. Had she done something wrong? Was she about to lose her job? With trembling hands, she straightened her uniform and made her way to the lobby. A tall man in an expensive suit stood at the front desk, talking with Marco. He had dark hair, slightly too long, and a face that might have been handsome if not for the lines of exhaustion and sadness around his eyes. As Catalina approached, Marco waved her over. "This is Catalina Reyes, the one who found your ring, Mr. Carter." The man turned to look at her, his blue eyes widening slightly. Catalina suddenly felt very aware of her damp uniform and the smudge of cleaning solution on her hands. "Thank you for turning it in," the man said, his voice deep and unexpectedly gentle. "I'm Damien Carter." "You're welcome," Catalina replied, already taking a step backward. This was usually where these interactions ended. The wealthy person would nod dismissively, and she would return to being invisible. But Damien Carter was still looking at her, a curious expression on his face. He held the platinum ring in his palm but made no move to put it on. "The ring doesn't look that important to you," Catalina said, before she could stop herself. Instead of being offended, Damien gave a small, sad smile. "It's not actually, not anymore." Marco cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the extended interaction between a guest and a housekeeper. "I should get back to work," Catalina said. "Wait," Damien said, taking a step toward her. "Would you let me buy you lunch instead?" Catalina blinked in surprise. Marco's mouth fell open in shock. What?" Catalina stammered. "Lunch," Damien repeated, "to thank you properly." "I was just doing my job, Mr. Carter." "Damien," he corrected. "And no, you weren't. Your job is to clean rooms, not to be honest when no one's watching." Catalina felt her face grow warm. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because men like you don't have lunch with women like me unless they want something." The words escaped before she could censor them. To her surprise, Damien actually laughed. It changed his whole face, erasing years from his appearance. "Fair enough. But what if I just want a conversation with someone who doesn't have an agenda?" Catalina thought of her afternoon schedule. More rooms to clean, more toilets to scrub, more beds to make. Then she thought of her mother, who had spent her entire life being invisible to the people she served. "I get a 30-minute lunch break." "At 1 o'clock, she said finally. "I'll meet you in the hotel restaurant." Catalina nodded and hurried back to work, her heart pounding. What had she just agreed to? And why did this wealthy stranger want to have lunch with a hotel cleaner? At 1 o'clock, Catalina changed into the spare blouse she kept in her locker and attempted to fix her hair in the employee bathroom mirror. Her hands were red and raw from cleaning chemicals, and no amount of lotion could hide that fact. The hotel restaurant was filled with business people and tourists. Catalina had never eaten there before. It was far too expensive for someone on her salary. She hesitated at the entrance, feeling completely out of place. "Catalina." Damien stood up from a table by the window and waved her over. She made her way across the room, acutely aware of the curious glances from other diners. A cleaner dining with a guest was not a common sight. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Damien said, as she sat down across from him. "I wasn't sure either," she admitted. A waiter appeared immediately, handing her a menu with a skeptical look. Catalina glanced at the prices and felt her chest tighten. "Order whatever you want," Damien said, noticing her discomfort. Catalina chose the least expensive item, a Caesar salad, and put the menu down. "So," Damien said once the waiter had taken their orders, "tell me about yourself, Catalina." "There's not much to tell. I clean rooms here 5 days a week. I'm studying to be a nurse online. My mother did the same job until she died 3 years ago." "I'm sorry about your mother," Damien said, and she was surprised by the genuine sympathy in his voice. "What about you?" Catalina asked, wanting to shift the focus away from herself. "Why are you in Santa Fe?" Damien twirled the platinum ring on the table between his fingers. "Finalizing my divorce, actually. My now ex-wife and I bought a vacation home here when we got married. I came to sign the papers selling it." "Oh." Catalina didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a short, unsuccessful experiment in trying to please my family." He gave a bitter smile. "Turns out money can buy a wedding but not a marriage." Their food arrived, and Catalina took a small bite of her salad, finding it hard to eat under his steady gaze. "You're not wearing the ring," she observed. "No, I'm not." Damien looked down at the platinum band on the table. "It represents a mistake I made, getting married for the wrong reasons to someone I barely knew." "Then why keep it at all?" "Good question." He picked it up, studying it thoughtfully. "Maybe, as a reminder not to make the same mistake again." The conversation shifted to safer topics: the weather in Santa Fe, the tourists who visited the hotel, Catalina's nursing studies. Before she knew it, 45 minutes had passed. "I should get back to work," she said, pushing her chair back. "I'm already late." "I'll talk to your manager," Damien offered. "Explain that I kept you." "No, please." Catalina shook her head firmly. "I don't want special treatment. It would only make things harder for me. Damien nodded, understanding in his eyes. Will you be working tomorrow? Catalina hesitated, unsure where this was going. Yes, same schedule. Would it be okay if I stopped by to say hello? Everything inside Catalina warned her to say no. Rich men didn't pursue hotel cleaners for innocent reasons, but something in Damien's sad eyes made her nod. I usually take my break in the staff room on the ground floor at 1. I'll see you then, Catalina. As she hurried back to work, Catalina couldn't help but wonder what she was getting herself into. Men like Damien Carter, wealthy, educated, powerful, didn't spend time with women like her unless they wanted something. The question was, what did Damien want? Marge was waiting for her, arms crossed. You're 15 minutes late, Catalina. That's coming out of your paycheck. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. See that it doesn't. I don't care if the Queen of England wants to have lunch with you. Your job comes first. Catalina nodded and grabbed her cleaning cart. As she rode the elevator up to the next floor of rooms, she found herself thinking about Damien's sad smile and the wedding ring he carried but didn't wear. There was something broken in him that called to something broken in her. But Catalina had learned early in life not to trust easy connections or kind words from those with power. Her mother had taught her that before dying in the same hospital where Catalina now hoped to work one day, not as a patient, but as a nurse with a future, brighter than her past. That night, as she studied her nursing textbooks, Catalina tried to put Damien Carter out of her mind. Men like him didn't belong in the world of women like her. They were ships passing in the night, moving in different currents, heading to different harbors. Yet, when she finally closed her books and crawled into bed, the image of his face stayed with her, and she wondered what tomorrow would bring. The next day, Catalina couldn't focus on her work. She mixed up cleaning solutions and had to redo a bathroom after missing spots on the mirror. All she could think about was her upcoming break and whether Damien Carter would actually show up. You're distracted today, Marge commented, inspecting a room Catalina had just finished. Is something wrong? No, ma'am. Just tired from studying. Late. Marge's face softened slightly. Your mother would be proud of you, you know. Not many people work full-time and go to school. Thank you, Catalina said, surprised by the rare compliment. At 12:50, Catalina made her way to the staff break room, her lunch, a peanut butter sandwich and an apple, in a paper bag. She had just sat down at the small table when there was a knock at the door. Damien stood there, looking slightly out of place in his expensive suit. He held a white paper bag and 2 coffees. I wasn't sure if you'd eat already, he said, but I brought sandwiches from that cafe across the street. The server said they were good. Elena, who was also on break, stared at him with wide eyes. Catalina, who is this? Damien Carter. He's a guest at the hotel. Catalina tried to sound casual, though her heart was racing. Damien, this is my cousin Elena. We live together. Nice to meet you, Damien said with a nod. Elena gave Catalina a look that clearly said they would be talking about this later, then gathered her things. I just remembered I need to check on something. See you later, Catalina. Once they were alone, Catalina felt suddenly shy. You didn't have to bring food. I wanted to. Damien sat down across from her and unpacked the sandwiches. Is this okay? Meeting here? It's fine, but people will talk. Does that bother you? Catalina thought about it. A little. They'll assume things that aren't true. Like what? Like I'm trying to sleep my way to a better position, or that you're using me for some kind of hotel affair. Damien looked startled, then laughed. Is that what they'll think? What else would they think? She gestured at his custom suit and expensive watch. And She pointed to her uniform. I'm just a person, Catalina. And so are you. He pushed one of the sandwiches toward her. Eat. Tell me more about your nursing studies. For the next 20 minutes, they talked about Catalina's classes and her dreams of working in the pediatric ward of the local hospital. Damien listened intently, asking questions that showed he was genuinely interested. What made you want to be a nurse, he asked. Catalina's face grew somber. My mother got sick when I was 23, breast cancer. The nurses at the hospital were so kind to her, even when they knew she couldn't afford the best care. One nurse in particular, Maria, would sit with her during her chemo treatments when I couldn't be there because of work. She made my mother's last months bearable. Damien reached across the table and briefly touched her hand. I'm sorry about your mother. She must have been a strong woman. She was. She raised me alone after my father left. Cleaned hotel rooms for 20 years without ever complaining. Like mother, like daughter, Catalina smiled sadly. Except I don't want to die cleaning other people's messes. I want more than she had. You'll get it, Damien said, with a certainty that surprised her. You have a determination I don't see in many people. When her break ended, Damien walked her back to the lobby. I'm staying in town for another week, he said. Would it be okay if I see you again? Every practical bone in Catalina's body told her to say no. Nothing good could come from getting involved with a recently divorced rich man who was just passing through town. But something in his eyes, a loneliness that matched her own, made her nod. I'm off on Sunday, she said. I usually go to the park to study. Which park? Santa Fe Plaza. There's a bench near the southeast corner where I like to sit. Maybe I'll see you there. Sunday arrived, sunny and cool. Catalina dressed with more care than usual, choosing a simple blue sundress instead of her normal jeans and t-shirt. Elena watched her apply a touch of mascara and lip gloss with raised eyebrows. You're meeting that rich guy, aren't you? His name is Damien. And yes, maybe. He said he might come to the park. Cat, be careful. Men like that don't usually have good intentions toward women like us. It's not like that, Catalina insisted. He's just lonely, I think. And so am I. Elena sighed. Just promise me you won't let him break your heart. We can't afford to replace it. Catalina laughed and hugged her cousin. I promise. My heart is safely locked away. At the park, Catalina tried to focus on her textbook, but found herself looking up every time someone walked by. After an hour, she had resigned herself to the fact that Damien wasn't coming when a shadow fell across her page. Sorry I'm late, Damien said, sitting beside her. My lawyer called with some questions about the house sale. Catalina was embarrassed by how happy she felt to see him. It's fine. I wasn't sure you'd come at all. I almost didn't, he admitted. Not because I didn't want to see you, but because I wasn't sure if I should. Why not? Damien ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Catalina was beginning to recognize as a sign of nervousness. Because you're right to be suspicious. Men in my position don't usually seek out friendships with women in yours without ulterior motives. And do you have ulterior motives? No. That's what confuses me. He looked at her with those sad blue eyes. I just find it easy to talk to you. You're the first person I've met in a long time who seems real. They spent the afternoon walking around the plaza, talking about everything and nothing. Damien told her about growing up as the son of a banking executive, the pressure to follow in his father's footsteps, and his failed marriage to Vanessa, the daughter of his father's business partner. It was more of a merger than a marriage, he said bitterly. Two wealthy families joining forces. I knew it was a mistake even before we said our vows. But I went through with it anyway. Why? Because I was a coward. Because it was easier than disappointing my father. Because I thought maybe it could work if we both tried. He kicked at a stone on the path. It lasted 11 months. Vanessa had an affair with her yoga instructor, and I was almost relieved when I found out. It gave me an excuse to end something that should never have begun. I'm sorry, Catalina said, and meant it. Don't be. It was my fault for not being brave enough to make my own choices. He glanced at her. What about you? Any heartbreaks in your past? Catalina laughed without humor. Men don't usually break my heart because I don't let them get close enough to try. I had one boyfriend in high school, Carlos. He joined the army after graduation and asked me to wait for him. 2 months later, I got a letter saying he'd met someone else at his base. His loss, Damien said simply. As the sun began to set, Damien walked her to the bus stop. I'd offer to drive you home, but I think your cousin might hunt me down if I did. Catalina smiled. You're probably right. Elena is very protective. She should be. You're worth protecting. The words hung in the air between them, filled with a meaning neither was ready to acknowledge. Will I see you again before you leave town? Catalina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I'd like that. Damien reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrapped package. I got you something. It's not expensive, so please don't feel uncomfortable. Catalina unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a used paperback copy of The Little Prince. The cover was worn, but the pages were clean. You mentioned it was your favorite book, Damien said. I found it at a used bookstore yesterday. Catalina ran her fingers over the cover, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. Thank you. My mother used to read this to me when I was little. Open it, Damien urged. Inside the front cover was an inscription. To Catalina, thank you for seeing what's essential. Damien, the bus arrived, breaking the moment. I have to go, Catalina said, clutching the book to her chest. I know. Can I call you tomorrow? She hesitated only briefly before giving him her phone number. As the bus pulled away, she saw him standing there, watching her go, the platinum ring visible in his hand as he twisted it absently between his fingers. Over the next few days, Damien called her every evening after her shift. They talked about books they'd read, places they wanted to visit, and the small details of their days that most people wouldn't find interesting. He never mentioned his departure date, and Catalina didn't ask, afraid to remind him that their lives were really on separate paths. On Thursday afternoon, Catalina was cleaning the lobby bathrooms when Marco, the front desk manager, approached her. There's someone asking for you at the desk, he said, his tone disapproving. Catalina's heart leapt, thinking it was Damien, but when she reached the lobby, a tall, elegant woman with perfectly styled blonde hair stood there instead. She wore designer sunglasses and a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Catalina made in 3 months. Are you Catalina Reyes? The woman asked, her voice sharp and cold. Yes. Can I help you? The woman removed her sunglasses, revealing icy blue eyes that assessed Catalina from head to toe. I'm Vanessa Carter, Damien's wife. Catalina felt the blood drain from her face. Ex-wife, she corrected automatically. Vanessa's perfectly painted lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Is that what he told you? How charming. What do you want, Mrs. Carter? I want you to understand your position. Vanessa took a step closer, lowering her voice. Whatever game you're playing with my husband, it won't work. Damien may be going through some sort of midlife crisis, slumming with the help, but he'll come to his senses. Catalina felt a surge of anger cut through her shock. I don't know what you think is happening, but Damien and I are just friends. Vanessa laughed, a brittle sound that drew stares from nearby guests. Of course you are. Listen, girl, I'm not angry. I understand the appeal of a wealthy man's attention, but you should know that Damien and I are reconciling. We're meeting for dinner tonight to discuss our future together. Then you should tell him that, not me, Catalina said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Oh, I will. I just thought you deserved a warning. Damien always returns to his own kind in the end. You're an amusement, nothing more. Vanessa put her sunglasses back on. Don't embarrass yourself by thinking otherwise. She walked away, her high heels clicking on the marble floor, leaving Catalina standing there with her hands trembling and her chest tight. That night, Damien called as usual. Catalina almost didn't answer, but at the last moment, she picked up. Hello? She said, hating the uncertainty in her voice. Catalina, is everything okay? You sound strange. I met your wife today. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, Vanessa came to see you. What did she say? That you two are reconciling. That you're having dinner tonight. To discuss your future together. Damn it! Damien's voice was tight with anger. Catalina, that's not true. Yes, Vanessa asked to meet, but only to discuss the final details of our divorce settlement. Nothing more. She said, Vanessa says a lot of things, most of them calculated for maximum effect. I'm not reconciling with her. I never would. Catalina wanted to believe him, but doubt had taken root. Why would she lie? Because she doesn't like losing control. Because she probably saw us together and realized I was moving on. Because she's manipulative and cruel. Damien sighed heavily. Can I see you? Tonight after my meeting with her, I need to explain in person. Catalina hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, Catalina. 1 hour. That's all I ask. Against her better judgment, Catalina agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near her apartment at 9 o'clock. She arrived early and chose a table at the back, nervously shredding a napkin as she waited. Damien arrived looking haggard, his tie loosened, and his hair mussed as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. "Thank you for coming," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You didn't tell me you were still meeting with her." "I didn't think it was important." Damien sighed. "That was a mistake. I should have been honest with you." "What did she want?" "Exactly what I told you, to finalize our settlement. But she also tried to suggest we reconsider the divorce." Damien's face hardened. "Not because she loves me or even likes me, but because, in her words, we make a good team, socially and financially." "And what did you say?" "I told her no." Emphatically. He reached across the table for Catalina's hand, but she pulled back. "Catalina, please believe me. I'm not going back to Vanessa, ever." "It doesn't matter," Catalina said softly. "You're leaving soon anyway." "What if I wasn't?" Damien leaned forward, his eyes intense. "What if I told you I've been thinking about staying in Santa Fe?" Catalina's heart skipped a beat, but she forced herself to be practical. "You have a life. In Boston. A business, family. A business I can run from anywhere. A family that only cares about appearances." He took a deep breath. "Catalina, I know this sounds crazy. We've only known each other for a week, but being with you makes me feel more alive than I've felt in years." "Don't," Catalina whispered. "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I'm afraid to believe you." Tears stung her eyes. "Men like you don't end up with women like me except in fairy tales, Damien. Real life doesn't work that way." Maybe it could. He pulled the platinum ring from his pocket and placed it on the table between them. "I've been carrying this around as a reminder of my mistakes, but when I'm with you, I don't need that reminder anymore. You make me want to look forward, not back." Catalina stared at the ring, her emotions in turmoil. Part of her wanted to believe him, to let herself fall into whatever was developing between them, but a lifetime of practical caution held her back. "I need time to think," she said finally. Damien nodded. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you tell me to." As they parted outside the coffee shop, Damien hesitated, then leaned down and kissed her cheek softly. "Good night, Catalina." She watched him walk away, her cheek tingling where his lips had touched her skin, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life by letting him go, or by letting him stay. At home, Elena was waiting up for her. "Well, what did Mr. Moneybags have to say for himself?" "His name is Damien," Catalina corrected automatically, "and he says he's thinking about staying in Santa Fe." Elena's eyes widened. "Because of you? After a week? I know it sounds crazy." "It doesn't sound crazy, Kat. It sounds dangerous." Elena sat beside her cousin on the couch. "Men don't change their lives for women they just met. Not unless they're playing some kind of game. Maybe he's not playing a game. Maybe he's just lonely, like me. Rich men are never just lonely. They're entitled. They take what they want and leave the mess for other people to clean up." Elena squeezed Catalina's hand. "Just like the messes you clean up every day at that hotel." Later that night, as Catalina tried to sleep, her phone buzzed with a text message from Damien. "I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to. Sweet dreams, Catalina." She fell asleep with the phone clutched in her hand, torn, between hope and fear, wondering if Elena was right or if maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could come true after all. The next morning, Catalina woke to another text from Damien. "Good morning. Would it be okay if I brought you coffee during your break today?" She stared at the message, Elena's warnings echoing in her head. But the thought of seeing Damien again made her heart beat faster. She typed back, "I'll be in the break room at 1. At work, Catalina moved through her cleaning routine on autopilot, her mind elsewhere. As she was changing sheets in room 312, Marge appeared in the doorway. "You've been summoned to Mr. Thompson's office," she said, her expression grim. Catalina's stomach dropped. Mr. Thompson was the hotel manager, and ordinary cleaners were rarely called to his office unless something was seriously wrong. Did he say why? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. No, but Vanessa Carter was seen talking to him this morning. Catalina's hands grew cold. Had Damien's ex-wife complained about her? Could she lose her job over this? Mr. Thompson's office was on the top floor with a view overlooking the mountains. He was a thin man with a permanent frown, and reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Miss Reyes," he said as she entered. "Have a seat." Catalina sat on the edge of the chair across from his desk, her back straight with tension. "It's come to my attention that you've been spending time with one of our guests, Mr. Damien Carter." Mr. Thompson's tone was neutral, giving nothing away. "Yes, sir. On my own time. Mrs. Carter has expressed concern about this friendship. She believes you might be taking advantage of her husband's recent divorce to advance yourself." Anger flashed through Catalina. "That's not true, sir. Nevertheless, it creates an appearance of impropriety." Mr. Thompson removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "The Paradise View has a reputation to uphold, Miss Reyes. Our wealthy clients expect discretion and professionalism from our staff. I've been nothing but professional in my work, sir, which is why I'm not firing you." Mr. Thompson put his glasses back on. "But consider this an official warning. Your personal relationships cannot interfere with the hotel's operations or reputation. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir." Catalina's voice was barely audible. "Good. Now, I believe you're scheduled to clean the north wing this afternoon." It was a dismissal. Catalina left the office, her legs shaking, a hot flush of humiliation spreading across her face. She had spent 8 years being invisible, doing her job perfectly, never causing trouble. And now, after 1 week of knowing Damien, she was being treated like a problem employee. She was changing towels in the staff supply room when her phone buzzed. A text from Damien. "Just got to the hotel, where should I meet you?" Catalina's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should cancel. Tell him not to come. But instead she typed, "Wait for me at the coffee shop across the street. I'll meet you there instead." At her break time, Catalina slipped out of the hotel's side entrance, not wanting anyone to see her leave. Damien was sitting at a table by the window of the small coffee shop, 2 cups in front of him. His face lit up when he saw her, but his smile faded as she approached. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "Your ex-wife talked to my boss today. I got called in for a warning about impropriety." Damien's expression darkened. "I'm so sorry." "Catalina, this is my fault." "No, it's hers." Catalina sat down across from him. "She's trying to make trouble for me because..." "Because what?" "Because she thinks there's something between us that threatens her." Damien reached across the table, taking her hand. This time, Catalina didn't pull away. "There is something between us. At least, I hope there is." Catalina looked down at their joined hands, his tanned and manicured, hers work-roughened and plain. "This is crazy, Damien. We come from different worlds." "Maybe that's exactly why we work." He squeezed her hand gently. "You see me as I am, not as what my bank account says I should be. And you see me as more than just a cleaner. I see you as Catalina, strong, kind, determined Catalina who's going to be a nurse someday." The sincerity in his voice made her breath catch. For a moment, she let herself believe that this impossible connection could be real. "What are we doing, Damien?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I want to find out. If you do, too." Catalina thought about the warning from Mr. Thompson, about Elena's concern, about all the practical reasons she should walk away. But looking into Damien's eyes, she couldn't make herself do it. "I do," she whispered. His smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Then we'll figure it out together." When Catalina returned to the hotel, she was surprised to find Elena waiting in the lobby. "What are you doing here?" Catalina asked. "Marco called me. Said, you got in trouble with the boss because of that rich guy." Elena's face was tight with worry. "I came to make sure you're okay." "I'm fine, Elena. It was just a warning. Not a big deal." "Not a big deal. Kat, you love this job. You need it for your tuition." "I know that." Catalina led her cousin to a quiet corner of the lobby. But I also know that I've spent my whole life being careful, practical, Catalina, always doing what was expected, never taking risks. Maybe it's time I did something just because it makes me happy. And he makes you happy? After 1 week? He sees me, Elena, not the maid, not the poor girl struggling to pay for school. Me. Catalina's voice broke slightly. Do you know how rare that is for someone like me? Elena's expression softened. Oh, Cat, I just don't want to see you hurt. I know. And maybe I will get hurt. But right now, for the first time since Mom died, I feel like something good might be possible. That evening, Damien picked Catalina up at her apartment. Elena watched from the window as he opened the car door for her, her expression still worried. Damien took her to a small, family-owned restaurant on the outskirts of town, away from the tourist areas where people from the hotel might see them. I thought you might be more comfortable somewhere like this, he explained as they were seated at a corner table. No fancy dress code, no judging looks. It's perfect, Catalina said, genuinely touched by his consideration. Over plates of enchiladas and glasses of sweet tea, they talked about their lives. Damien told her about growing up as the only son of a demanding father who measured love in achievements. Catalina shared stories of her mother, who had taught her to make coffee with cinnamon and a prayer for whoever would drink it. She sounds like a wonderful woman, Damien said. She was. Catalina smiled sadly. She always told me, Mija, be kind, but never be a doormat. God gave you a strong heart for a reason. Wise words. Damien looked thoughtful. My father's favorite advice was, never show weakness, especially to those beneath you. It took me years to realize how toxic that mindset was. As they lingered over dessert, Damien asked, would you make me coffee sometime, the way your mother taught you? With cinnamon and a prayer. Catalina smiled. I could do that. Later, as they sat in his car outside her apartment building, neither seemed ready for the evening to end. I have Sunday off again, Catalina said. Maybe we could go somewhere, away from Santa Fe where people won't recognize me. I know just the place, Damien replied. A small town about an hour from here. There's a lake and a market where local artists sell their work. Would you like that? I would. Catalina hesitated, then leaned over and kissed his cheek. Thank you for tonight. Before she could pull away, Damien gently turned her face toward his and kissed her softly on the lips. It was brief, almost tentative, but it sent warmth spreading through Catalina's entire body. Good night, Catalina, he whispered. Inside her apartment, Elena was waiting up. Well, how was your date with Prince Charming? Despite her resolve to stay practical, Catalina couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. It was nice. Really nice. Oh no, Elena groaned. You've got that look. What look? The I'm falling for him look. Elena shook her head. Just be careful, Catalina. Men like that are used to getting what they want. He's not like that, Catalina insisted. He's different. They all are, until they aren't. Sunday arrived with clear skies and warm weather. Damien picked Catalina up early, looking casual and relaxed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt. It was the first time she'd seen him dressed down, and somehow it made him even more attractive. The drive to the lake was beautiful, with mountain views and wide-open skies. In the small town, they wandered through the market, looking at handmade jewelry, pottery, and paintings. Damien bought her a small clay heart, painted with forget-me-nots, after she admired it. A heart for a heart, he said, placing it in her palm. They ate lunch at a picnic table by the lake, sharing a basket of fried chicken and fresh bread that Damien had packed. Later, they walked along the shore, talking about dreams and fears and all the things that mattered. I've been thinking about something, Damien said as they sat on a bench watching the water. What if I helped you with your nursing school tuition? Catalina stiffened immediately. No. Catalina, I have more money than I know what to do with. It would mean nothing to me financially, but it could change your life. That's exactly why I can't accept it. She turned to face him. I need to do this on my own, Damien. I need to know that I earned my future. I understand, he said, though he looked disappointed. But will you at least think about letting me help in some way? Maybe just with books or— No, Catalina said firmly. This isn't negotiable. If we're going to be together, it has to be as equals. I won't be your charity case. You could never be that. Damien took her hand. But I respect your decision. No more offers of financial help. Thank you. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the lake, Damien pulled her close. I'm falling for you, Catalina Reyes, completely and hopelessly. Even though I'm just a hotel cleaner? She asked, only half joking. You're not just anything. He kissed her forehead. You're everything I never knew I needed. For the first time in years, Catalina allowed herself to believe that happiness might be possible, that the dreams she'd kept locked away might actually come true. The week that followed was like something from a movie. Damien brought her coffee during her breaks, left small gifts and notes at the front desk for her, and picked her up after her shifts when she wasn't too tired from studying. They shared meals, walks in the park, and quiet conversations that stretched late into the night. At work, Catalina noticed the whispers and looks from her co-workers. Some were curious, others disapproving. Marco, the front desk manager, made a point of commenting whenever Damien left something for her. Another delivery from your admirer, he would say, his tone implying that it wouldn't last. Marge was more direct. You're playing with fire, Catalina. Men like that don't marry maids. I'm not asking him to marry me, Catalina replied, and I won't be a maid forever. On Friday afternoon, Catalina was cleaning a suite on the top floor when she heard voices from the adjacent room. The door was slightly ajar, and she recognized Vanessa's sharp tones immediately. You're making a fool of yourself, Damien. Everyone is talking about your little fling with the hotel maid. Her name is Catalina, and she's not a fling. Damien's voice was cold and controlled. And frankly, Vanessa, it's none of your business who I date. It is when it affects our social standing. The divorce was bad enough, but this? Dating the help? Our social standing. There is no our anymore, Vanessa. We're divorced. On paper, perhaps. But we both know that with the right image rehabilitation, we could make this work again. Our families still want it. The business would benefit. And you wouldn't have to deal with the embarrassment of introducing your cleaning lady to the board of directors. Catalina felt sick. She wanted to walk away, to not hear anymore, but her feet seemed frozen to the spot. There's nothing embarrassing about Catalina, Damien said sharply. She's working her way through nursing school. She's smart, kind, and more genuine than anyone I've met in our social circle. Oh, please. She's a gold digger with a convenient backstory. You think she'd look twice at you if you were poor? Actually, yes. Because unlike you, she cares about me, not my bank account. This is absurd. Vanessa's voice was dripping with disdain. What's next? Moving her into the Boston house, introducing her to your father. Can you imagine the look on his face? There was a long pause before Damien spoke again. I haven't decided if I'm going back to Boston. What? Vanessa sounded genuinely shocked. I've been managing the business remotely for 2 weeks now. I could continue to do so at least part of the time. Because of her? You'd change your entire life for some woman you just met? The Damien I knew would never be so impulsive. Maybe that's because the Damien you knew was never really happy. Catalina had heard enough. She quietly moved away from the door, her mind reeling. Part of her was touched by Damien's defense of her, but Vanessa's words had struck a nerve. What would happen if Damien did take her to Boston? How would his family react to him dating a hotel cleaner? And was she really worth him changing his entire life? That night when Damien called, Catalina was unusually quiet. Is everything okay? He asked. You seem distant. I heard you talking to Vanessa today, she admitted. I was cleaning next door. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but… Damien sighed. I wish you hadn't heard that. Vanessa can be cruel. She made some good points, though. About your life in Boston, your family. No, she didn't. Damien's voice was firm. Vanessa doesn't understand what matters to me because she's never cared about what makes me happy, only about what looks good to other people. And I make you happy? Catalina asked softly. Happier than I've been in years. There was no hesitation in his voice. Catalina, I know this has all happened very fast, and I know there are 1,000 reasons why it shouldn't work. But when I'm with you, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Tears stung Catalina's eyes. She wanted so badly to believe him. What about your family, your business? My father has never approved of any decision I've made that didn't align with his plans for me. That's his problem, not mine. And as for the business, I can run it from anywhere with an internet connection. I don't want to be the reason you give up your life. You're not. You're the reason I'm finally choosing my own life. Damien paused. Can I see you tomorrow? I want to talk about this in person. Okay, Catalina agreed. I get off at 4. The next day dragged endlessly. Catalina went through her cleaning routine mechanically, her mind preoccupied with thoughts of Damien and their uncertain future. At 3:30, she was in the staff locker room changing out of her uniform when her phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Come home as soon as you can, emergency. Catalina's heart raced. Had something happened to her cousin? She quickly grabbed her things and rushed out of the hotel, forgetting about her plans to meet Damien. When she reached their apartment, she found Elena sitting on the couch, her face grim. On the coffee table was a tablet displaying a gossip website. What's going on? Catalina asked, breathless from running. Are you okay? I'm fine. Elena pointed to the tablet. But you need to see this. Catalina picked up the tablet and felt the blood drain from her face. There on the screen was a photo of Damien and herself walking hand in hand in the park. The headline read, Carter banking heir in secret romance with hotel maid. The article was brief but vicious, painting her as a gold digger who had set her sights on a vulnerable, recently divorced millionaire. It mentioned her job, her neighborhood, even the fact that she was studying nursing. How did they get all this information? Catalina whispered. Keep reading, Elena said. At the end of the article was a quote from an unnamed source. Vanessa Carter, Damien's ex-wife, is understandably concerned. She and Damien were in the process of reconciling when this woman appeared. Their families are devastated. Catalina's phone buzzed repeatedly as messages poured in. Some from co-workers, others from classmates, all asking about the article. Then, a call from Damien. She answered with shaking hands. Did you see it? I just did. I'm so sorry, Catalina. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen. It was Vanessa, wasn't it? She did this. Almost certainly it has her fingerprints all over it. Damien sounded furious. Where are you? I'll come get you. I'm at home. But Damien, I don't know if that's a good idea right now. Please, Catalina, let me see you. We need to talk about this. Against her better judgment, she agreed. 20 minutes later, Damien arrived looking distraught. I'm so sorry, he said, as soon as she opened the door. I never wanted you to be dragged into this kind of spotlight. Eleanor stood in the background, arms crossed, clearly unhappy with his presence. I'll be in my room, she said pointedly to Catalina. Call if you need me. Once they were alone, Damien took Catalina's hands. I've already called my lawyer. We're demanding a retraction and threatening to sue if they don't comply. Will that help? The damage is already done. Maybe not completely, but we have to try. Damien's face was tight with anger. I can't believe Vanessa would stoop this low. I can, Catalina said softly. She wants you back, Damien. Not because she loves you, but because you're a prize to be won. Well, she can't have me. He pulled her close. I'm exactly where I want to be. Catalina rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. What happens now? Now we fight back. Damien kissed the top of her head. Together. But as comforting as his words were, Catalina couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of their troubles, and that maybe, just maybe, Elena had been right all along. Some fairy tales weren't meant to come true. The gossip article changed everything. By Monday morning, when Catalina arrived at work, it seemed everyone at the Paradise View Hotel had seen it. Whispers followed her through the hallways. Even guests stared at her with curious eyes. Mr. Thompson called her into his office before her shift even began. Miss Reyes, he said, his face stern, I'm afraid we have a problem. Catalina stood with her back straight, refusing to show fear. If this is about the article, sir, I had nothing to do with it. Perhaps not directly. Mr. Thompson folded his hands on his desk. But the fact remains that the Paradise View Hotel is now being mentioned in gossip columns. We cater to an exclusive clientele who value their privacy. This kind of publicity is unwelcome. I understand, sir. Do you? He raised an eyebrow. Because I'm not sure you understand the position you've put yourself in. Or this hotel. Catalina took a deep breath. With all due respect, sir, I didn't ask for this attention. I've done nothing wrong except date someone who happens to be wealthy. Mr. Thompson's expression softened slightly. I know you're a good worker, Catalina. Your record has been exemplary until recently, but this situation has become untenable. Her heart sank. Are you firing me? No. He sighed heavily. But I am transferring you to the laundry department, effective immediately. No more guest room cleaning or front-of-house duties. At least until this situation resolves itself. It was a demotion, plain and simple. The laundry room was hot, exhausting work with fewer hours and less pay, but it was better than being fired. I understand, sir. Thank you for not terminating my employment. When she told Damien about the transfer that evening, his face darkened with anger. This is ridiculous. They're punishing you for something completely outside your control. At least I still have a job, Catalina said, trying to sound optimistic. The laundry room isn't so bad. You shouldn't have to accept this treatment, Catalina. Let me talk to the hotel management. I have connections who... No. She cut him off firmly. That would only make things worse. Then everyone would think I'm using you to get special treatment. Damien ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I hate that you're suffering because of me. I'm not suffering, Catalina said softly. I'm just adjusting. That night, as they sat in her tiny living room drinking coffee, made with cinnamon and a prayer as Catalina had promised, Damien seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone, frowning at messages. Is everything okay? Catalina finally asked. Damien sighed. My father saw the article. He's been calling non-stop, demanding I return to Boston immediately. Catalina's stomach tightened. What did you tell him? That my personal life is none of his business. Damien set his phone down. But he's not one to take no for an answer. He's threatening to fly out here himself. Maybe you should go, Catalina said quietly, just to talk to him. No. If I go back now, it will look like I'm running away, like I'm ashamed of us. Damien took her hand. I'm not ashamed, Catalina, not of you, not of us. But this is your father, your family. A father who's only ever seen me as an extension of himself. A family that values appearances over happiness. Damien's voice was bitter. They don't get to decide who I love. The word hung in the air between them. Love. Neither had said it yet, though it had been dancing at the edges of their conversations for days. Catalina's heart raced. Is that what this is? Love? Damien met her eyes steadily. Yes, I love you, Catalina. I know it's fast. I know it sounds crazy after just a few weeks, but I do. I love you. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too, and that terrifies me. Why? Because love doesn't conquer all, no matter what the stories say. Love doesn't erase the fact that you're Damien Carter, heir to a banking fortune, and I'm Catalina Reyes, hotel cleaner who can barely afford nursing school. Those are just circumstances, not who we are. Damien cupped her face gently. And circumstances can change, some can't. Catalina thought of her mother, of the years of struggle, of the world that had always seen her as someone who existed to clean up other people's messes. I'll always be the girl from the wrong side of town, Damien. Your world will never fully accept me. Then we'll make our own world. He kissed her then with a tenderness that made her heart ache. For that moment, Catalina let herself believe that love really could be enough, that they could overcome the obstacles between them through sheer force of will. The next day, disaster struck. Catalina arrived at work to find Marco waiting for her at the employee entrance, his face grave. Mr. Thompson wants to see you, he said. Immediately. In the manager's office, Mr. Thompson was not alone. A distinguished-looking older man in an expensive suit sat across from him, his posture rigid with disapproval. Miss Reyes, Mr. Thompson said, his voice strained. This is Mr. Edward Carter, Damien's father. Catalina felt the blood drain from her face. Edward Carter's cold blue eyes, so like Damien's yet so different, assessed her with undisguised contempt. "So," he said, "you're the maid who's been causing all this trouble." Catalina lifted her chin. "I haven't caused any trouble, sir." "No?" Edward raised an eyebrow. "The gossip columns, the damage to my family's reputation, my son threatening to throw away everything he's worked for. You don't consider that trouble. Your son is a grown man who makes his own decisions. A man who, until he met you, was on track to take over the family business, who was considering reconciling with his suitable wife, who knew his responsibilities to his family name." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps I should give you two some privacy." "That won't be necessary," Edward said sharply. "This won't take long." He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a checkbook. "Miss Reyes, I understand. You're studying nursing. That's admirable. Education is expensive, especially for someone in your position." Catalina felt sick as she watched him write out a check with practiced ease. "I'm prepared to cover your complete education, nursing school, living expenses, even a small starting fund for when you graduate." He tore out the check and laid it on the desk between them. "All I ask in return is that you end this inappropriate relationship with my son." Catalina stared at the check. The amount was more money than she had ever seen in her life. Enough to finish nursing school without struggling, enough to help Elena, enough to give her the fresh start she'd always dreamed of. All she had to do was break Damien's heart. "Mr. Carter," she said slowly, "I appreciate your concern for your son, but I can't accept this." Edward's expression hardened. "Everyone has a price, Miss Reyes. I'm offering you freedom from financial struggle and a chance at a real career. What can my son offer that's better than that?" "Respect," Catalina said simply. "He respects me as a person, not a problem to be solved with money." "Don't be foolish, girl. Damien is going through a phase. He's rebelling against his marriage, against me, against his responsibilities. When it ends, and it will end, you'll be left with nothing. Maybe. But at least I'll still have my self-respect." Edward stood abruptly. "I see. Well, if money won't persuade you, perhaps this will. Damien stands to inherit control of a company worth billions, but only if he returns to Boston and resumes his proper place. If he stays here, playing house with a hotel maid, he loses everything. His inheritance, his position, his future. Is that what you want for him?" The words hit Catalina like physical blows. "No," she whispered. "Of course not." "Then be the sensible one, Miss Reyes. End it. Let him go back to where he belongs." After Edward Carter left, Catalina sat in the employee break room, her hands shaking. She had chosen her pride over life-changing money, but now a heavier choice lay before her. Damien's future versus their relationship. She loved him enough to want what was best for him. But was she what was best? Or was she a distraction, a temporary escape that would ultimately cost him everything? That evening, Damien arrived at her apartment in a fury. "My father came to see you. How dare he interfere like this?" "He's worried about you," Catalina said quietly. "About your future." "My future is my concern, not his." Damien paced the small living room. "I can't believe he tried to buy you off, as if you could be bribed to leave." Catalina sat on the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "He said you'd lose your inheritance if you stay with me, your position in the company. And he thinks that matters to me?" Damien knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Catalina, I have enough money of my own. I don't need his inheritance or his company. But it's your birthright, your legacy. A legacy I never wanted." Damien's voice rose in frustration. "My whole life has been planned out by my father. The right schools, the right career, the right wife. For once, I want to choose my own path, and I choose you." Tears filled Catalina's eyes. "What if it's not that simple?" "It is that simple." Damien squeezed her hands. "I love you. You love me. The rest is just noise." But that night, as Damien slept beside her, Catalina lay awake, Edward Carter's words echoing in her mind. Would Damien really be happy giving up everything for her? Or would he eventually resent her for costing him his legacy? In the morning, Catalina made a decision. She slipped out of bed early, wrote a note and left it on the kitchen table where Damien would find it. Then she took a bus to the hotel, not to work, but to meet with Mr. Thompson. "I'd like to take a week of unpaid leave," she told him. "Personal reasons," Mr. Thompson studied her face. "Does this have anything to do with Mr. Carter's visit yesterday?" "In a way. I need time to think." "Very well. Given the circumstances, I'll approve it." Catalina spent the day at the public library, ignoring the calls and texts from Damien. She needed space to think, to decide what was truly best for both of them. By evening, she had come to a painful conclusion. She loved Damien too much to be the reason he lost everything. Their differences were too great, the obstacles too high. Better to end things now before they were in any deeper. She returned to her apartment to find Damien waiting, her note crumpled in his hand. "I need time to think," he quoted, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "That's all you have to say after everything?" "I'm sorry." Catalina felt her resolve weakening at the sight of his pain. "This isn't working, Damien. It can't work." "Why?" "Because my father says so. Because some gossip column wrote about us, because the world thinks we don't match, because I don't want to be the reason you lose your family, your inheritance, everything you've worked for." "That's my choice to make," Damien insisted. "Not yours, not my father's." "And what about 5 years from now, 10? When the excitement fades and real life sets in, will you still think I was worth giving up everything for?" Damien stepped closer, his eyes intense. "Yes, because you're not asking me to give up anything. It's my father who's making these ultimatums, not you. It doesn't matter who's making them. The reality is the same." Catalina wrapped her arms around herself protectively. "I think you should go back to Boston. Talk to your father. Think about what you really want." "I know what I want. I want—" You say that now, but no." Damien's voice was firm. "No more buts. No more doubts. I've spent my entire life doing what was expected of me, and it nearly destroyed me. I was miserable, Catalina, trapped in a loveless marriage, working at a job I tolerated at best, surrounded by people who only cared about my bank account." He took her hands. "Then I lost my wedding ring in a hotel suite, and a kind, honest woman turned it in instead of keeping it. And that woman showed me what really matters in life. Not money, not status, not family expectations, but love. Real, honest love." Tears streamed down Catalina's face. "I'm afraid, Damien, afraid that loving you will destroy both of us." "It won't." He pulled her close. "I promise you it won't." For a moment, she let herself believe him. But then she stepped back. "I need you to do something for me," she said quietly. "Anything. Go back to Boston just for a week, talk to your father, sort things out with your company. Make sure this is really what you want." Pain flashed across Damien's face. "You don't. Believe me. I believe that you believe it right now. But I need to know that you've considered everything, that you're not just running away from one life without thinking about what you're running toward. And if I go, will you wait for me?" Catalina hesitated, then nodded. "1 week, and then we'll talk again." The next morning, Catalina watched as Damien's car pulled away, heading for the airport. Elena stood beside her, an arm around her shoulders. "You did the right thing, Kat," she said. "He needs to be sure. And if he doesn't come back, then you'll know he wasn't the one." The week that followed was the longest of Catalina's life. She cleaned out her apartment, studied for her nursing exams, and tried not to check her phone every 5 minutes. Damien called every night, brief conversations that carefully avoided any mention of decisions or futures. On the 6th day, Catalina was sitting in Santa Fe Plaza, at the same bench where she'd met Damien weeks earlier, when her phone buzzed, with a text message. It was from Damien. "Check your email." With trembling hands, she opened her email app. There was a message from Damien with an attachment, a scan of a newspaper article from the Boston Business Journal. The headline read, "Carter Banking Heir Steps Down, Launches New Foundation." The article detailed how Damien Carter had resigned from his position at his family's company to start a non-profit foundation focused on providing educational opportunities for healthcare workers from underprivileged backgrounds. At the end of the email, Damien had written, "This is what I want. Not because of you or for you, but because of who I've become since meeting you, a person who finally knows what matters." Tears blurred Catalina's vision. She was still staring at her phone when a shadow fell across the screen. "Hello, Catalina." She looked up to find Damien standing there, his smile tentative, his eyes full of hope. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you I would." He sat beside her on the bench. "I talked to my father. It didn't go well, but I said what needed to be said. I'm not going to live my life on his terms anymore." "The foundation? It's real?" "Very real. Funded with my own money, not his." Damien took her hand. "I want to help people like you, Catalina. People with dreams and determination who just need a chance." "What about your inheritance?" "My father has frozen my access to the family holdings. But my personal accounts are substantial." "Enough, I won't starve," he added with a wry smile. "So what happens now?" Catalina asked, hardly daring to believe this was real. Damien reached into his pocket and pulled out the platinum wedding band, the ring that had started everything. "Now, I return this to its rightful place." He placed it in her palm, folding her fingers over it, not as a proposal, not yet anyway, but as a promise. Her promise of what? That I'm not going anywhere, that whatever comes next, we face it together. His eyes were steady, certain. "I was supposed to wear this for a lie, but maybe I could give it to someone who reminds me what honesty feels like." Catalina's breath caught in her throat. "Are you asking me to marry you?" He smiled. "No, I'm asking you to let me earn you." She looked down at the ring, her heart pounding, and whispered, "Then don't give it to me yet." He nodded. "Not until you're ready?" She shook her head. "Not until you are." Damien's smile widened. "Fair enough, but I'm keeping it safe until then." He took the ring back, tucking it into his pocket. "In the meantime, I've rented an apartment here in Santa Fe. Nothing fancy, just a place to call home while I get the foundation up and running. You're staying?" Catalina couldn't keep the joy from her voice. "For as long as you'll have me." He pulled her close. "I love you, Catalina Reyes. Hotel cleaner, future nurse, savior of lost wedding rings. I love all of you." "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. As they walked hand in hand through the plaza, Catalina thought of her mother, of her strength, her wisdom, her belief that everyone deserved a chance at happiness. "She would have liked you," Catalina said suddenly. "Your mother?" "Yes. She always said that true character shows in how you treat people who can't do anything for you." Damien squeezed her hand. "I wish I could have met her." "Me too." Catalina smiled. "But I think she's watching, and I think she's happy that I found someone who sees me, really sees me." "I see you, Catalina," Damien said softly, "and I'm never looking away." The platinum wedding band remained in Damien's pocket that day, a symbol not of a rushed, loveless union, but of a promise for a future built on honesty, respect, and love. 6 months later, as Catalina proudly displayed her nursing school acceptance letter, Damien would take it out again. And this time, when he asked, she would say yes. Not because he was Damien Carter, heir to a fortune, but because he was simply Damien, the man who had lost a ring and found his heart. Their wedding would be small and intimate, held in the garden of the local hospital where Catalina would begin her nursing career. Elena would be her maid of honor. Damien's father would not attend, still unable to accept his son's choices, but his absence would be a reminder of the price of true happiness, and how willingly they had both paid it. And on their first anniversary, they would return to the Paradise View Hotel, not as a guest and a cleaner, but as equals, two people who had defied the odds, crossed invisible boundaries, and proven that sometimes, just sometimes, love really could conquer all, as Catalina would say that night, her head on Damien's chest, her finger tracing the platinum band that now rested where it belonged. Some rings are just circles of metal, but this one carried a story, our story, and It was a story worth telling. The end.